I've never really discussed my anxiety or my depression before until I got to high school. Until I got to my senior year, becoming an 18-year-old and doing all of the things that a regular person does. It took me a long time to realize and learn what anxiety and depression were. But this is the Way podcast, where we discover our identity and figure out our place in this cruel, cruel world that we live in. So we're going to dig deep into it right now. This is the Way podcast, and today is the first episode of a podcast I've wanted to start for a long, long time of my life, and we're finally doing it. Decided I was going to sit down and hit record on my camera and my mic, and we're going to talk about anxiety and depression through the life of a teenager with Asperger's. For those of you that don't know, Asperger's is on the autism spectrum. Basically, the gist of it is I struggle socially. I have trouble understanding social cues when talking to people. I don't know when certain things are appropriate or inappropriate per se. But I've never really let that get to me. I've never really let that define who I am as a human, as an individual, as a brother, as a son, as a friend. And for the longest time, I never really told people that I had this sort of Asperger's because I didn't think it played an important part in my life. And it doesn't. It doesn't define me. It doesn't define who I am. But it very much is still a part of my life. Along with social issues, Asperger's also provides sensory issues. That means I'm very sensitive to my touch, my smell, my taste, and all of that kind of thing, and just how I interact with certain resources and actions in my life. So what that means for me is I grew up fighting doctors, fighting dentists, and I'm not going to lie to you, that's, I think, where the story begins, first of all. I suffer major PTSD, and this is a story I've only told a select few people, and we're really diving into this deep right now, but we're going to go for it. I grew up fighting my dentist, fighting my doctors. I'd go in for my annual checkup at the doctor, and I'd need my shots, and I'd refuse. I'd simply kick, I'd scream, I'd punch all of the doctors. They had to call in several backups. I essentially had to get held down on the bed in the doctor's office just to get my shot because I was so terrified of the way it felt getting pressed into my arm. And up until I turned about 16, I suffered with that tremendously. I'd go in, I knew when my shots needed to be getting, and I'd have anxiety, and that's where we first get in touch with my anxiety. I'd go to the doctors knowing when I needed my shots, and I'd be so nervous, I'd be terrified to be in that room, just waiting and anticipating this thing that was going to get ejected into my arm. And it really has impacted me for many years. It also goes back to my dentist. You have to go to the dentist once a year or something like that, once or twice a year. I'd go into the dentist, and they got to the point where they were scraping my teeth, and I couldn't do it because my sensory issues really got to me. So I'd have to get put to sleep to simply get my teeth cleaned. For years of my life, I had to get put to sleep to get my teeth cleaned properly, simply because I couldn't withstand the feeling of the scrape around my tooth. And that's where my PTSD comes in. I'd wake up from those dentist appointments, and I'd wake up from being put to sleep, and I lost sense of the world. I had no clue where I ended up at, just laying in this bed. They put those things on your fingers to track your heartbeat or whatever, and I'd panic. I'd see it, I'd notice it, I'd feel it on my finger, and I'd say, please get this off of me. This is going to be the death of me. I can't take this anymore. And I had to wait for the doctor to come in, the dentist to come in and finally remove it when they realized what I needed. But I panicked as soon as I realized where I was, what had happened. My whole head felt numb. My face felt numb. And every inch of my body felt numb after waking up from these dentist appointments. And this went on for years of my life until I was probably 10. And my parents like to tell me that there's no such thing as PTSD from this. But I truly believe that I suffer major PTSD from facing the dentist for many years and years of my life. And I struggle with anxiety. Up until I was 16, I'd struggle getting my shots because, like I said, I anticipated them. I knew they were coming. And as soon as I got that shot, my whole body would lose its soul. I have several doctors say, is he all right? Is he all right? He looks like a ghost. Is he okay? No, I wasn't okay. That's the truth. And sometimes it's okay to admit that we're not okay. My anxiety had gotten to me all the way from the point that I woke up that day to the point I got that shot and beyond. My anxiety had gotten to me the entire day. And I'd feel like a ghost. I'd go numb. I'd be shaky. I'd be freezing cold. I'd be pale in the face, like just completely dead of who I was. And beyond the doctor, beyond the dentist and this kind of thing, I walk every day in anxiety. We're diving straight into this, and I absolutely love talking about it right now. Every day I wake up and I'm stressing out. I struggle going to school in the morning because I simply don't want to be at school. I don't have many friends that I interact with at school on a daily basis. People who support me, I don't really have that. And so at school, I'm kind of a loner, it feels like most days. So I wake up, I don't even want to go to school. And I have to push myself really, really hard to get out of bed most mornings for school because I simply don't want to go. I feel like there's no place for me there. And it's a scary feeling. But then throughout my day, all of these assignments and schedules that I have to follow, these times, these dates, all these things that I have to remember in my brain, I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to cope with it. And I'm constantly worrying about what class is next, Whether it's an easy class or a hard class, I'm always worried about what class is next, because I know that's more work, more knowledge that goes into my head that I have to focus on. And school starts my anxiety for the day. And a lot of days after school I have work or bowling or church or some other activity. And I just dread those things because it's just more information getting put in my head. And a lot of information at one time is hard for a person like me. It's too much for me to handle at one time, and especially when I'm excited about something. Like right now I'm trying to find summer camps to go be a counselor at for the summer, and that's one of the things that I'm really excited for right now. So everything else in my life is just a constant motion until I get to a point where it's like, hey, I've got a camp, I'm going to camp now, I'm at camp. And that's part of my Asperger's as well. Getting stuck on one subject and being stuck there for a long time. Being so excited about it, wanting to tell the whole world about it, and just go off and keep doing these things. And once I get hooked on something, I'm hooked on it and don't let it go until I either get an acceptance or I get denied of the opportunity or whatever's going on. Whether it's approved or denied, it's not until that point that that thing goes away from my life. So right now, camp is a priority of my life. It's something I really want to do. And I'm just constantly anxious to get all of my stuff accomplished so I can find that camp and submit those applications and have those interviews with those people to finally get that opportunity. So everything else in my life right now is just a simple passing by, and it's just me hoping for the next thing to be better than the last thing, because there's so much happening in life at one time, and I don't know how to take it all in because I struggle with anxiety. I really, really do. And I think a lot of people in the world nowadays struggle with anxiety, and it's not talked about often. Anxiety looks different for everybody, and that's totally acceptable. But it shouldn't go unnoticed. I suffer with anxiety just like so many others in the world. We're not alone in anxiety. We don't have to be alone in anxiety. We can always have somebody to talk to. Just go up to somebody and say, hey, can we talk about this? And something I've learned is 9 out of 10 times somebody will say, yeah, I'm willing to listen. What's up? What's going on? And then there's that 1 out of 10 that say, no, I don't want to listen to you. I don't care what you have to say. And we can totally take that and say, oh, I'm so beaten down by it. This person wasn't willing to listen to me, and I don't know what to do now. I have nobody to go to. But I promise, the more people you talk to, the more people you go up to and say, hey, let's talk, the more you'll find yourself around new people that are just so accepting of you. And you come to find that so many of us deal with the same things. I have anxiety, and so many of my friends have anxiety. So many people around me have anxiety. And I only know that because I check on people regularly. I reach out to my friends. I reach out to my classmates. I ask people how they're doing. And it really goes a long way. So I guess this is my breakdown, my basic breakdown of who I am. I haven't really touched on the depression, but I guess we can save that for the next episode. This is the Way podcast, where we discover our identity and find our place in this cruel, cruel world. Thank you for tuning into this episode. In the next episode, we'll talk about my depression. And remember, you're not alone. This world needs you just as much as the other person next to you. I love you. and I'll talk to you next time.